Hey everyone, it's Mojaxx back in the DJcity Lockdown Lab, today with my review of the Denon DJ Prime Go. This is a standalone all-in-one device. It's got a street price of $999, it's incredibly compact, and it's got a built-in battery. Let's get into it. This review will possibly be a little shorter than you might expect. That's because, although this is a unique and interesting device in many ways, in others it's just like the rest of the Prime series. Basically, it's a 2-channel all-in-one standalone device based on the Engine OS operating system, just like the SC5000 and 6000 players, the Prime 2 and the Prime 4. And that's a very good thing. The Go does all the usual primey stuff. It can analyse tracks on the fly, has 8 hot cues, 8 saved loops, beat jump, roll, it's all there. The only significant difference in control is that it has 2 banks of 4 pads instead of 1 bank of 8. Like its stablemates, the Go also has built-in Wi-Fi, so you can stream music from Tidal right now, with Beatsource and Beatport Link to come very soon. In fact, all the internals are effectively the same as the other aforementioned hardware, which means there's very little sense of any downgrade compared to its more sizable siblings. Performance is just as snappy in every respect. With that in mind, and knowing that I'll have the new SC6000 players in hand very soon for a full review, I'm pretty much going to leave discussion of Engine OS there. If you want to know more, go watch my review of the Prime 4, the most recent release prior to this. In this review, I'll focus on what's different with the Go as much as possible. One quick digression though, on the preparation software side I will say this. Engine Prime is still not perfect and there are still a few features and tweaks I'd like to see, but it has improved massively in the past few months and I am now much more comfortable with it than I was in the past. For a while there was always a caveat when I recommended Prime gear to people. The hardware is great but the software lets it down. Now those days are gone. Again, more on that when the 6000 review comes around. At around 16 inches wide, 11 inches deep, 2 inches high and weighing in at a little over 8 pounds, the Go is remarkably compact for such a fully featured device. It's not quite small enough to fit in a record bag, but will happily squeeze into many DJ backpacks. The main way that Denon DJ have achieved that small size is, as you can see, by shrinking the jog wheels right down, and they are indeed pretty tiny. The feel is okay for pitch bending and such, and the nudge sensitivity is adjustable in settings so you can dial that in. The jogs are capacitive so you can scratch with them if you insist, but I wouldn't really recommend it. The pitch faders likewise are less than half the length of those on the SC5000s. They're still nicely accurate, however. Manual mixing is very much possible on the Go, especially if you use the plus or minus 4% pitch range as I often do. The EQ positioning is unusual, being laid out left to right to make room for the screen, but the overall layout is akin to single decks and not mirrored, so there's no weird muscle memory problems to deal with. The 7-inch capacitive touchscreen certainly doesn't feel small, and that was the right decision on Denon DJ's part. On Prime Series gear, the screen is always the heart of the system, and on here you have plenty of room for track browsing and searching, waveforms displayed either horizontally or vertically, and all the settings and preferences options within. The screen doesn't feel at all cramped, and touch control is second to none, with gesture support for swiping through crates and all that kind of stuff. I also really like the little drop-down menu, which gives you quick access to some settings and recording. The display is bright enough to see comfortably in daylight and has a wide viewing angle, but there's definitely a part of me which would have appreciated a tilted screen instead of the flat one we have here, even though that would have reduced the tiny footprint of the device. Another alternative would have been some kind of extendable feet on the rear of the Go to tilt the whole thing towards the user. There's nothing to stop you coming up with something like that in a DIY fashion or using a stand, but a built-in solution would have been cool. Construction quality feels very solid and I've had no qualms about throwing the Go into a backpack when taking it out and about to test. Because of the size of the unit, it's sometimes hard to shake the impression that it is a budget device, but it's really not. It feels as well built as the other Prime Series gear through and through, with the same feel to all the knobs, buttons and faders. On the subject of faders, they all feel pretty good, but the cut-in distance on the crossfader is rather long. The whole device just hasn't been created with scratching in mind. Sound quality is good, although on paper not as highly spec'd as the 5000 or 6000 players. I certainly had no complaints, whatever kind of system I ran it into, and my recordings sound great. In terms of connections, the Go is well equipped, as long as you're happy just using it as intended, as a standalone device. There's only one line level input on RCAs with a dedicated aux level control, so it won't function as a mixer for external devices. There are 2 mic inputs, both with combo jack and XLR sockets, their own level controls, and talk over on mic 1. They sound good, but as with other recent Prime gear, they can't actually be listened to in the headphones at all. This might not be a huge problem for some people, but it actually made the Go a much less appealing prospect for me when live streaming, for example. Hopefully that can be sorted out in a future update. As for outputs, there's everything most people should need, either for home use or professional events. Balanced XLRs and RCAs for the master out, which can be switched to mono, ideal if you're playing outdoors with only one speaker. There's also a booth out on balanced jacks. No record output is needed, as the system records in the box to a connected USB drive or SD card. Speaking of those, they're your two options for media on the Prime Go. There's no space for an internal SSD like on most new Prime kit, which does make sense, but a fully loaded up SD card can sit in the front of the Go, barely sticking out at all. In my mind, that's the ideal choice for this unit, but the USB port on the rear works equally well. There's also a USB-B port for connecting to a computer, although at the time of making this video, that doesn't really do much. As the Go is based on all the same technology as the other Prime units, in theory it could be made to function as a controller for software like Serato, but there's no sign of any movement in that direction at this time. The other port on the rear is an Ethernet port for Denon DJ StageLink protocol, so you can sync up with Resolume, the timecode front of house software, and sound switch for lighting, which I'm completely in love with. More on that in a future video. The Q output is loud and clear with both sizes of headphone jack and a Q master blend knob. There's no split Q option at the time of making this review, but Denon DJ did confirm on their forum that split Q is coming to the Go in a future update. So far, basically all good stuff, but there are a couple of things on the Go which I'm not overly happy with. The first one is minor but still annoying. Denon DJ seem to have a real issue balancing the brightness of the LEDs in their units. It can be hard to tell quite often if things are activated or not, particularly in daylight and especially on the effects. Which brings me to the one area in which the Go really lets me down currently, and that is those effects. The sweep effects on each channel are fine. The filters are good and I love the washout effect. But the main effects unit on the top left of the Go has some problems. The control method of it is okay, with info displayed on the screen, and happily it is post crossfader, whether assigned to one or both channels. And indeed some of the effects like the rolls seem to work okay. But for me, and what I see of other DJs, the three most crucial DJ effects are echo, delay and reverb, and it feels pretty much impossible to balance the levels on those. They're either too loud or you can barely hear them. Due to the nature of the Prime series, this can be fixed, and Denon DJ have assured me they're working on that for a future update. But during the review period, I must admit I've largely avoided using the main effects at all when performing, which is a real shame. So finally we move on to what really sets the Go apart from pretty much everything else on the market, the built-in lithium-ion battery. Denon DJ claim a battery life of 4 hours, and in my longest test with both decks playing, I got 3 hours 45 minutes, but that was with no effort to save power. I had the screen on full brightness and Wi-Fi switched on, so I have no doubt that 4 hours is achievable. You'll still need to connect the Go to some sort of speaker, of course, to play to an audience, but there are countless examples of battery-powered speakers available to buy these days, so you have plenty of options. It's hard to overstate just how cool it is having such a powerful device that is completely portable. I've always championed portablism here on the channel, but I'm nobody's definition of a turntablist, and so the Prime Go is much more me. To be able to take the Go anywhere you like and mix comfortably, whether that's in a park, a backyard, the beach, in the back of a car, wherever, is a joy. Combine that with the streaming options, and the Go is the perfect device for barbecues, house parties, and outdoor events. Basically anywhere you can physically take the Go, you can play with it. So there you go, my take on the Prime Go from Denon DJ. I've had a really good time using this product. I've really enjoyed it. And it helps that I'm really kind of in that Denon Engine Prime ecosystem now, because I've mainly been using the SC5000M players when I do my live streams. And so being able to prep tracks using the Go, just export to an SD card from the computer, stick it into the Go, sit there on the couch, headphones on, nothing plugged into the wall, and just prep my tracks for my shows, take that SD card out, put it in the players, and I'm off to the races. That's a really useful bit of functionality for me. It's also been fantastic just as a DJ device, just to take it out and do live streams from outdoors I've done. I've recorded sets down at the river here in Newcastle. It's been really good to have this around and to play with it. It may not be the ideal primary device for a lot of DJs because it is quite limited when it comes to, say, inputs, for example. You know, if you want to run turntables into your device at some point, this is not really the device for you. You're going to need to look at like the Prime 4, obviously a much bigger, less portable device, but it does have a lot more going on in terms of connectivity. This has got all the outputs you could need, but it's kind of hard to get stuff in it beyond USB stick, SD card, or streaming services. So you've just got to be aware of the limitations of it and think about what's going to work best for you. But if you want something that is going to be a really portable device, the world now is turning more and more to outdoor events. You know, that's how things are going to be for a while. And so it may well be that you're a wedding DJ, you've got your main system set up in the main hall, and you need something for background music for the ceremony itself before or after that. Well, you can take your Prime Go, battery powered, get a battery powered speaker to go with it, and there's your background music. No wires, nothing connected, just one wire from the Go to the speaker. It's that kind of thing that could see the Prime Go being very useful indeed. I'll be really sad when this goes back to Denon DJ. I've really enjoyed having it around. It is a great bit of kit. Be aware of its limitations if you're looking at it, and be aware that you might need to look at something a bit bigger to cover all the bases. But if you want something super portable that gives you great battery life and all the performance, all the power of the Prime series at just under $1,000, you can't really go wrong with the Prime Go. It's super, super fun. Thank you for watching today. Make sure you subscribe for all our future tips, tricks, and product reviews. I'll see you soon.